Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the Riptide. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
Brewers, it's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think, Jamil and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters. This is Brew Strong, and I'm here. Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Got his own ass.
Brew Strong, and I'm here. Hey, howdy. Yeah. All right.
Hear that on a loop forever and ever.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters. I'm here with my good friend Jason Petros. I'm Jamil Zainasheff, and this is Brew Strong. Jason.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm like we said at the beginning, we're surviving, just hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I've always wondered, all right, so you do a couple other podcasts. You've been in the Brewing Network for quite a while, and you do a Disney podcast, right?
I do. Yes, sir.
And what's that called? What's that about?
It's Ears Up, and in Ears with a Z, because back in 2013, I thought, you know what, that would be cool.
Ears with a
Turn
Z
an
is
S
cool.
into a Z. Yeah. And one word with an exclamation point. So, we were trying to be funky and fun. And now I hate it because every time I, write my own name, I got to wait. It's a Z. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so, I'm doing that, like I said, 2013. So, God, almost 10 years.
Wow.
About 10 years now. I think we started in like June or whatever, or September. Doesn't matter. Yeah. And so that's cool. We have, we have like 6 shows now. It's a whole network.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of,
wow.
So what I know how to do is just get other people to do shows.
There you go.
Yeah, so we have shows. The main show is just about Disneyland history generally.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have one show called The Supreme Resort, which compares attractions in Disney World versus attractions in Disneyland to figure out which is better. So there's a lot of like detailed history, a lot of nerd stuff going on there. And we actually just launched one called Puny Pod, which it's an MCU sort of watch through historical breakdown show that a couple folks are doing. And, it's going to sort of talk about how the movies diverged from the comic books and, kind of branching out as Disney buys more IP and it gives us more topics.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then a show that I think I've been on once was Dr. Homebrew. Dr.
Homebrew. Yes, sir. Yes.
How long have you been doing Dr. Homebrew? That's been a while, too.
God, I don't remember. Yeah, it's been a long time. I want to say 2008-ish, 9-ish, something like that.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember.
Well, in that one, people send in beers that they've homebrewed.
Yeah.
And then you guys taste them and score them and comment on them, right?
Yeah. Yes. And the key to that, which I'm most proud of, is we have the brewer on the call with us, so they get to ask questions. So, I say it's an interactive score sheet.
Mm-hmm.
So if we say something stupid, or more importantly, if Brian Cooper and Brian Shar say something smart and you want to expand on it, you can ask them, well, what does that mean? How do you get maltiness? What I was thinking about adding more carapils. What would that do? Or, whatever. What do you think about the hop blend or the, whatever? You can get a little bit more feedback than just reading someone's, writing and going, oh, well, this person has no idea what they're talking about.
The toughest thing, though, to me is when somebody's like, oh, taste my beer. And then they're asking for feedback. And, a lot of people don't really want honest feedback. They've handed you the beer because they think it's the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And then if you say, well, yeah, it could, this, that, the other thing, they get quite hurt.
Yes. With our show, it's a little different because we are soliciting beer from people who want feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
they all say that.
Well, right. But I mean, if you're going to pay for shipping to, you know what I mean? $13-14 to get us beer. I think you're okay with it. I think you're okay with that kind of feedback. Yeah. Especially if there's something wrong or, I mean, we've had people that I think have taken what we've said a little personal, which happens. I mean, you know, it's your baby that you're bottling.
And do you get like the second package in the mail that is ticking?
Yeah, drink this. It's clear liquid that's sort of foamy. Right. No, everybody's been really kind and cool about it. Everyone's been great. And we've actually had quite a fair amount of rebrews. So we'll have people like rebrew the same batch based on our recommendations. Right. And then we get to drink that. Of course, it's really hard to remember what we said, but it's sort of it's nice to revisit stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah. It's tough to provide people feedback, and
it is. It's a challenge.
Yeah. It's like you're talking about their children.
Well, you're right. You know what I've noticed over the years, the score. So what Brian and Brian do is they drink the beer first a couple nights before, and then they have the second bottle the night of. And more often than not, they will adjust their scores up during the live judging. And I think it's because the person's staring them in the face. They're right there on the call. And so I think they just kind of I think they're a little more kinder than they were, quote, anonymously. Right.
Oh, I know how that is.
Yeah, like maybe I could
go places. Yeah.
Maybe I could have come up a couple points here, there, whatever.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah,
it's liquid. It's liquid. Yes.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. Well, it's not
appears to contain some alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and then you get to do the classic bottle variation. Well, I think this bottle tastes better. There's more carbonation, so I think I'll come up on that a little bit. It's like, okay, maybe. Also, I think you're just trying to figure out a way.
That's an extra 10 points. Yeah.
But we got some cool styles. We've gotten some cool beers. It's been nice. It's not all just like try my hazy IPA for the last 5 years. So I appreciate that from everybody.
Right. That is interesting. And I imagine that's quite challenging to do and do consistently.
Yes.
You know who does a wonderful job and does it consistently?
Who's that?
Our good friend, John Blickman.
That's right.
Blickman Engineering. All that great equipment. And like you like to say, you're the inventor of the term innovating your brew day.
That's right. I still have yet to see a residual check, John. So come on.
I don't know if they use that, but yeah, that's, what a great guy and what a great company, what great products. They've been sponsoring the show since, it's been 15, 16 years already.
Wow.
Been a long time doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, it's all through the graces of John Blickman that makes it all possible.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to do some Q&A.
That's right.
The questions that keep getting sent into BrewStrong at thebrewingnetwork.com. I have vowed to answer every question that is sent in.
This is your Sisyphusian sort of task where you're just like, I'm self-imposing myself to trap my brain in this jail of a never-ending question.
I'm pushing this rock up the hill.
Yeah.
And there's been quite a few questions. There's still, maybe another 300 that haven't been answered.
Wow.
So
here we go.
I'm getting on them.
Yeah, you are.
But feel free to send more in. I've been doing some newer ones. One came in I was thinking about doing today, and a person said, he goes, maybe, I'll keep listening in 5 to 7 years. You'll get to this question.
See, he knows. He knows exactly what's going on. And that's what I always liked about our audience is they're self-aware. Mm-hmm. And they all, you know what I mean? Not self-aware, I guess, but they know that we're self-aware. They understand what we're doing and they still follow us, which is nice. You know what I mean? They know that we're not going to get to it for a while and they're not bothered by it.
Right. I have been doing more of the recent questions. I'm kind of leaving the ones that are a decade old. I don't feel it's as urgent to get to those now.
Yeah. Lost to time. Yeah.
I will get to them. It's just not as urgent as the newer ones that come in. So.
Right.
So you're going to read the question today. What's our first question?
Well, this one is about oxygenation and carb volumes. And it looks like a two-parter. Mm-hmm. So we'll do whatever you want. This is from Steven. He says, I'm new to brewing, but tried to educate myself as much as possible. My first 2 batches failed to attenuate fully. Yeah, brother, been there. Both batches stopped around 50 to 60% apparent attenuation. Both batches used appropriate starters and fermentation temp control is not an issue. My best guess is that cold side oxygenation, 5 minutes of stir stick with a drill, isn't giving enough ppms of O2 for the yeast to live a healthy life. Next batches with pure O2 in line will tell.
So he's switching to pure O2.
Yeah.
He doesn't mention, what the recipe was or, the starting gravity was.
No, he does not.
Yeah. And he's saying that temperature control is not an issue. Man, there's not enough detail in this one.
Yeah, because it could be, when you say temperature control isn't an issue, what does that mean?
Right.
In his mind, is it getting, it's like not too cold, so it's fine, or it's
that, or I'm keeping
hot?
it really cold.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we would need to know details on that for sure, because if it's too cold, then then yeah, that's, that would happen.
Yeah. You got to measure the temperature of the liquid. If you're measuring the air temperature and controlling your fermentation that way, it doesn't really work. So you want to control the temperature of the fermenting liquid. So make sure you're doing that. 5 minutes with a stir stick, I would think would be enough aeration for most average ABV beers.
Right.
But, going to pure O2 is not as much of an issue. It will certainly help. The other thing would be, he's saying that, it's an appropriate starter, depends on how you do the starter.
Right.
If it's a big beer, you've got to have, the right nutrients. You got to have, a big pitch. You got to have oxygen. And if it's something over 1080 starting, then you want to give it a second dose of O2 if necessary. So, look at those. This question is only 5 years old. So
yeah. So Stephen, you're still brewing probably.
you probably figured it out by now. Let us know what you figured out.
Right. You tell us the answer to this, man.
Right. There you go. All right. You say you had 2-part?
Yeah. His next question is about keg carbonation. He says, most of the beers on tap on my fridge are served at about 12 PSI. If a beer is carbonated higher than that, say at 2.8 to 3 volumes at 40 degrees, but served at a lower pressure, how long until equilibrium is reached? And are there any major issues with 3 kegs at different carb volumes, but served at the same pressure?
Yeah, the issue is going to be serving all these different beers at the same pressure. You're going to get some foaming. You're probably going to have pouring problems. So how long until it reaches equilibrium? Probably within a week, depending on the surface area. If they're corny kegs, it's a pretty small surface area. If they're not being shaken or anything, so you could set all the pressures the same for, a couple of days, and it will start to affect them. But, certainly for a day, it wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
So, there you go. All right, let's do this. Let's take a short break. And when we come back, we'll have more of your questions right after this.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Are you looking for a simple brewing system that's great for all grain brewing, but everything on the market seems to be full of compromises? Blickman Engineering has the answer. The Blickman Brew Easy All Grain Brewing System. The Brew Easy is a complete system with easy upgrades and a beautiful compact design, perfect for any size brewing location. At its core, the Brew Easy is built on 2 gorgeous Blickman Boilermaker brew kettles, a high-temperature March pump, and either a top-tier gas burner or the new Boil Coil electric heater. The Brew Easy adapter lid allows the pots to stack stack on top of each other, forming an efficient, strong, and compact brewing setup that comes in 5, 10, and 20-gallon batch sizes. Upgrade your Brew Easy system with full automated control by adding a Blickman Tower of Power temp controller, and make moving around easy with the Blickman Kettle Cart. The Brew Easy is modular. If you already own a Boilermaker kettle, you can build your Brew Easy by purchasing just the modules you need. The new Brew Easy all-grain brewing system. See it today at BlickmanEngineering.com and brew with Blickman quality on your new Brew Easy.
Back to the two guys that know how to turn beer into beer. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. I'm here with my good friend Jason Petros, creator and host of Dr. Homebrew, and also Ears Up with his E and exclamation point.
Yeah, you can go to earsup-podcast.com or patreon.com/earsup and support the show. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Yeah.
John asks in the chat, what pearls of wisdom did you pick up commercially brewing that you've brought back to your home brewing?
Wow. I think it's bold to assume you're homebrewing again.
I am homebrewing.
Oh, you are? Okay, good. Okay, great.
I'm about 6 batches in.
Wow.
I have 5 of them have been...
You don't slow down.
British bitters.
Oh, God bless you.
You know, around
God bless you.
3.5% to 4%.
Yeah.
And then I did a Mosaic IPA that was like 6%.
Okay.
That I served my friend's pub.
Nice.
His home pub in his garage. What did I bring back to home brewing? Wow.
I feel like that's hard because you had all this home brewing experience that you brought to commercial brewing.
Right.
And I imagine it sort of evolved over time as you learned.
Right.
Yeah. Good luck.
I will say this. It is a much more relaxed approach to home brewing now. I don't really, being sanitary, pitching the right amount of yeast, things like that, still 100%. But, ingredients, it's like, whatever ingredients I have, what's the OG? I don't care. It's just, it's going to be beer. I'm much more relaxed now. I don't, since I don't have to sell it, I'm giving it away. Screw you if you don't like it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Commercially brewing, I was just like, oh my God, everything's got to be consistent and everything's got to be, exactly the same. And, ABVs need to be spot on for governmental reasons. And homebrew, I'm just like, well, it tastes pretty good. What more do you want? That's it.
It is funny because, on the home brewing side, if you don't have commercial experience or whatever, you're very much, what do the commercial brewers do? Act like a commercial brewer. And to a certain extent, that will help you improve your beers. But I think with that also carries the stress of being a commercial brewer. On the homebrew side, we're like, well, I have to record this. I have to get it down or whatever. Because when you're learning, you go, okay, well, that's going to help me. And, that's what we teach people on More Beer. It's like, write everything down, take notes so you know what happened. But, I guess what's lost in there is don't stress about it. It's also fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, just blindly how to make beer. I don't know. I barely weigh anything. Timing. It's all fine. It'll work. Yeah. I think, the lack of stress now, so stressful commercial brewing that, it's fine. It's beer.
Well, there you go. I think it's a good life lesson. Well,
you're right, my friend.
Yeah. Next question is from Dan. He says, hi, guys. Thanks for everything you do. I'm assuming he's talking to me and you. When kegging a lager after a diacetyl rest, is it best to keg at the diacetyl rest temperature, or is it best to chill it down no more than 2 degrees per day to yeast target temperature range, which is low to mid 40s, than kegging?
Right. If you want to truly lager the beer with the yeast, you'll chill it down slowly. You say 2 degrees per day. In Fahrenheit, you can do about 6, maximum of 6. In C, it's 3 C a day. What we did at Heretic was we would set the controller, down 3 degrees Fahrenheit in the morning. At the end of the day, as everybody's leaving, down another 3 degrees. So over the course of 24 hours, we dropped 6 degrees. 2 degrees, I like better. And if it wasn't commercial brewing, I would have done 2 degrees. Then you do 2 degrees in the morning, 2 degrees at night, Fahrenheit, 1 degree C in the morning, 1 degree C at night. And that's going to keep the yeast fairly active. It won't completely go dormant. That's the theory anyways. And then I wouldn't take it down below 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
When you say you would rather 2 degrees than 3 degrees, it's a 2 degree difference in 24 hours. Does it really matter?
I think if you're doing a little slower, you avoid the chance of, kind of shocking the whole system and having the yeast just shut down. Okay. Because, refrigeration isn't always, especially in a fridge where there's blowing air.
Yeah.
And there's, rapid chilling on these commercial fermenters, a 120 barrel fermenter with glycol jacketing. The glycol is running around, our glycol tank was at 28 to 29 degrees Fahrenheit. By the time it goes through the pipes and reaches the tank, it's probably, 30, 31 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's just kind of a slower cooling. So there's not a whole lot of risk of rapidly crashing something and it being a problem. You still can commercially, but it's a little less so, I think. You ever make lagers?
Yes, 1 or 2 times when I was at More Beer, but I haven't done it in 10 years.
Oh wow! All right,
yeah. Mainly because I don't want to mess with the starter, with the big giant starter and do all that. I love lagers, but I don't know. I think my brewing is sort of sloppy, and I would rather buy. I'd rather buy them. It's like let other people do that because it's hard to do for me. And but maybe that's just an excuse to not have to worry about it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you doing lagers at home?
I haven't yet, but I have a fridge and a temp controller, so I probably will here at some point.
Will you drop it 2 degrees or will you drop it 3 degrees a day, Jamil?
I will do 2 because of the size of the fridge and the refrigeration a little concerning. Going too fast.
Yeah, well, you don't want to go too fast with that big size.
I've got time, so that doesn't bother me.
All right, very good. You want to do another one?
Yep.
All right, this is from Billy. He says using London Ale 3, I think it's 1318. Ketchup fermentation calmed to an extreme low after high Kreuzen and good activity over 4 days. Check gravity 1030 and 1026 OG 1068 porter. We started at 1068 down to 1030 and 1026. A 10-gallon batch split at fermentation. Boil up 16 ounces and used Y yeast nutrient. Now, 24 hours later, small yeast head on beers are fermenting again. Should I not run this yeast till 3rd generation and do a barley wine due to fermentation issues? Or does it seem like lack of nutrient? At the end of boil, yeast energizer was used in beer, not normal Y yeast nutrient. A lot of shorthand.
Right.
I kind of appreciate Billy, but also because we're really smart.
So it sounds like he's asking, here's the problems I had with this yeast.
Yeah.
And I got the beer to finish out, but is the yeast going to be a problem on the 3rd generation to do a barley wine?
Yeah.
I think you'd be okay. It doesn't sound like you had really horrible problems. The issue with reusing yeast a lot of times is it's contaminated. So unless you're very, very careful, there's some bacteria in there, wild yeast probably. And if you carry it enough generations, it's going to start showing up in the beer. But if you are careful, most fermentations, even if you kind of jack up the yeast with weird temperature problems that cause, a reaction to thermal stress, the yeast will still be okay. You can end up with petite mutants and things like that, lack of oxygen, lack of nutrients, things like that can kind of mess them up. But generally, you're going to be okay. I wouldn't worry about it on the homebrew scale as much. I would do it. I'd just go ahead and, just especially from those fermentations, you should have quite a substantial pitch of yeast. And, there's going to be enough healthy yeast in there, even if there are some petite mutants or something. It won't be the whole pitch. So you're probably okay. Just toss it in there. The problem you might run into may be like the yeast isn't settling very quickly. It's going to take a long time for the yeast to drop out, which happens with the petite mutants. But that's not a big deal, especially in a barley wine. You're not going to drink it right away anyways. Have plenty of time to let the yeast settle out. So I'd say go for it. What do you think?
Yeah, sure, man. Why not? Who cares? It's just homebrew. No,
if it sucks, send it into Dr. Homebrew.
Yeah. Or if it doesn't, I mean, come on. I would normally agree with you. I mean, I guess I still agree with you, but what causes pause is this is it would be his third generation. So he already grew it up one time, then used it a second time in the porter. So I don't know. I mean, if you're talking mutants and stuff on a homebrew level, maybe for a barley wine wouldn't be good. But then again, it's such a big beer and you're going to, go for it, dude. Do it. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chances are it's going to work out just fine.
It'll be fine. Yeah.
Adam in the chat is asking, did you ever brew a no-boil beer at Heretic? I'm thinking about brewing a hazy IPA and not heating past 170 Fahrenheit. Using ALDC to combat diacetyl. Should I be concerned about haze stability without a proper hot break? The thing you should worry about is
why in the first place.
The thing you should worry about is if you're working from grain, if this was just pure extract, I think you'd be okay. Wet extract, I think you'd be okay. If you're coming from grain, you need to boil your wort for at least 15 minutes. You can boil it and then cool it down, but you have to boil it. If you don't, there are organisms that will survive on it. When I came back from England, last year, I was toting some special yeast that I had captured, and I asked Andrew at the brewery, I'm like, hey, give me he was doing a 5-barrel batch or something. I said, hey, when you, after you boiled for a bit, I said, fill these mason jars for me. I need some starter wort. So he filled them for me, but before the boil, it was 195 degrees Fahrenheit. He filled these jars.
Oh, man.
We inverted them so the lids were sanitized 195 degrees. I used one of the jars. The other jar started fermenting. It fermented out that entire thing.
Wow.
It ended up tasting clean, so I think it may have been diastaticus or something, but it completely fermented. Big layer of yeast in the bottom afterwards. And I'm just like, 195 didn't do it. So I had to throw away the yeast I was growing up because of the other one. It was clearly the same.
Sure.
So I wouldn't trust anything that isn't boiled for at least 15 minutes. I think it's critical.
Yeah.
I'd look out for that. I think that's one of the big issues is making sure you boil it. And Leaf is asking, let's see, hey guys. Would you please write in the chat how you would construct a great California IPA? Would be greatly appreciated. I'll tell you, great California IPA, if you want it in writing, there's this book called Brewing Classic Styles.
Yeah.
Yourself a copy of that.
Yeah. Come on, Leaf. I'm going to just type it out in the chat.
Yeah. Or, email me and I'll give it to you in writing. A great California IPA, West Coast IPA, today is really light. So just base malt. Use something, a North American 2-row. We like to use the raw Alex malt. It's really light in color. It's like 1.8, 1.9. and about 5 to 10% dextrose, and then hops. Hop the California ale yeast 001, US 05, 1056, any of those, and then hop it aggressively with some C hops and modern hops, and there you go. Real simple.
Oh yeah.
It's base malt, sugar, and that's it. It's, a light, easy drinking IPA. Target like 6.5% ABV. John asks another quick one. Since we're on the topic of English yeast, what strain are you using for homebrewed bitter? Is Y yeast West Yorkshire still your favorite? Absolutely. That is freaking fantastic.
That's the one, huh?
It is just delicious. So the first homebrew batch I did, told Chris and Warrior, I'm like, well, send me the ingredients for a bitter. And so it was, some Golden Promise, a little bit of crystal malt, Goldings, Fuggles, and the West Yorkshire yeast. And man, oh man, it was probably one of the best bitters I've ever brewed. It was spectacular.
Nice.
So the only thing I like better is Harvey's Brewery in Sussex. Their bitter, their yeast is actually, I think it's 11 or 13 different organisms. And the flavor it develops is out of this world good. This is probably my favorite beer in the world. It's got me in the top 3.
God, I'm thirsty now. I've never even had it before, but it sounds great. It sounds complex.
I carry it is, but it's not weird in any way. It's just there's a lot of structure to that yeast flavor that's in there. It's perfect. I toted back a little mini 5-liter mini keg of this beer on my last trip.
Nice.
So I'm down to my last 2 pints.
Oh man, you should just get the yeast and have like White Labs culture it and bank it for you.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, when I was there, I was thinking, I could just stick my hand in this yeast, scoop a bunch, stick it in my pocket, and then when I get home, cut the pocket out and grow it up and plate everything out. But I didn't. Yeah, I didn't want to take the yeast without asking.
Oh no, yeah, you got to ask for sure. Yeah, maybe they'll just tube it up for you.
And now I'm going to carry some sterile tubes with me.
You have to, yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody should be carrying sterile tubes.
That's right. Reduce the population a little bit.
Since you're on the show, we're getting a lot of live listeners.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is. It's like a train wreck. It's like a car accident. Like, let's see what JP's been doing. Sitting in that studio of his talking about Mickey Mouse.
William asks, any bottling tips when entering beers in homebrew competitions? Methods, equipment, PSI, timing, etc. You really should put out an updated version of BCS. Author a new recipe book, even if it ends up being more pages than publishers prefer. Yeah, I'm building up the strength to get that second version done. I mean, it's going to turn out like Encyclopedia Britannica. It's probably going to be 1,000 pages.
Oh my goodness!
But hey, I like to hear myself talk when I write.
That's true.
Let's see. Yeah, I just need to buckle down and get that done. Bottling tips. That's what I should throw in there. William, that's a great idea. Bottling tips.
There you go.
Packaging tips. I got to write myself a note on that one.
I mean, it's a good idea. It's what a lot of people ask, and it's one of the hardest things to do on the homebrew side. On the anything cold side is very hard.
Right. I think that's more useful information than, the other stuff that was in BCS, because people are very serious that have that book. Well, what did you do to bottle beers, JP?
I would bottle condition for years. And then I kegged, and then I did everything from like the counter pressure filler at more beer. Mm-hmm. I never used a beer gun. Mm-hmm. Which I hear is the way to do it. I also have just shoved a tube up the faucet and like crank the carbonation up a couple psi, and then just let the headspace fill up, and then run it off that, or lower it. I guess lower the lower the carbonation. I think it's what it was. You overcarbonate a little bit, then you drop the PSI so more carbonation stays in. I don't know. I forget what it is. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Right. And then I would do that. I would just go right into a bottle and cap it. And that seemed to work okay. Mm-hmm. But for me, I had a hard time getting my just general carbonation dialed in. Mm-hmm. I got the runs, fine. I got the tubing length. I got all that, but it would always seem like undercarbonated. And then when I would try to, bump it up a little bit, it was over. I couldn't find that
sweet
plateau. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything I did was sort of undercarbonated, and then I just don't. Now it just doesn't matter. If I bring beer anywhere, it's just a little less carbonated than I want, and I've learned to live with it.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't like a highly carbonated beer, but I think the tricks are, getting the beer very cold. Mm-hmm. The colder you can get, and going off of a keg, get that beer, as close to ice cold as you can. It becomes worlds easier to fill the bottles without a lot of excess foaming. Like you mentioned, the old Fox filler, the filler that a decade ago or a couple decades ago I was using for more beer, that worked well. I filled 10, 20,000 bottles using that. The Blickman beer gun, I think, is much easier and works really well. You stick it in there, you pull the trigger to purge with CO2. Just give it a long purge. In testing at Heretic, we were able to get 0 parts per billion in a bottle using a Blickman beer gun. But the trick was purge the CO2 for minutes.
Minutes? Wow. Minutes. Okay. All right.
Because what happens is the CO2, as much as you want to think it just lays on the bottom and pushes out the oxygen, it does, but it mixes. It really does mix easily with the air that's there. So you just need to just keep on squirting the CO2. If this is for a competition, you want these things perfect.
Yeah.
Purge for a couple of minutes and then fill, use the beer gun and then, cap on foam. You do that, you'll be doing great. Let's take another short break. And when we come back, we'll have more of your questions right after this.
Learning to brew has never been so disgusting. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. I want to tell you about the good friends up at Brew Chatter in Reno. Have you ever been there, JP?
I have to Reno or Brew Chatter, or both?
Or both.
I've been to Reno years ago. I have not been to Brew Chatter. I've been when I went to Reno, it was not in a homebrewing capacity.
Yeah. If you get a chance to go up there, fantastic guys, wonderful shop. They have a great online presence, and their customer service is spectacular. They're really on top of things, and really nice guys, very knowledgeable. If you go in there, tell them I sent you. Have a pint of beer at their little bar there. They have great commercial beers on, and they do a lot of events. Fun place to visit. Every time I'm up in Reno, I love to go by Brew Chatter and hang out. So check them out, brewchatter.com. Let's see here. Do you have another question for us, JP?
I sure do. This is from Antonio. This is Jamil. I've been listening to Brew Strong for about a year now and appreciate the knowledge bombs you guys provide. My question is, why does it seem like you guys are against brew in a bag all grain brewing? I personally find it to produce great beer and now have 10 batches under my belt since switching from extract brewing. The convenience of not having a sparge and louder setup and associated equipment are a huge plus in my book. I understand why it doesn't work on a commercial level, but for me is a great all-grain method for home brewery. P.S. No need to conduct your studies on squeezing the bag. I have brewed the same coffee stout on 3 occasions with the same yeast, and the one that was squeezed had very noticeable astringency compared to the others. All were fermented in a plastic bucket using a mini fridge and temp control taped to the bucket. Tony.
So don't squeeze your bag.
Don't squeeze your bag. But why the hate against brew in a bag? Jamil, what's going on? Why? Why do you hate innovation?
I was attacked by a bag when I was young.
Okay.
And that's how it goes. So I hate brew in a bag.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I don't hate brew in a bag. I think there's nothing really wrong with it. I'm kind of doing brew in a bag right now with the Brewzilla. You kind of lift that basket out, set up on top, and then you pour some water through it. That's essentially brew in a bag. I think the problem I had with brew in a bag is just depends on how you do it. So if you're just putting the grain in a bag, soaking it, pulling it out, and then boiling that, I got a few issues with that. It'll still work fine, but I think it's better if you recirculate the wort through the grains. It helps remove a lot of that particulate matter, clarifying the wort. It'll help with shelf stability later on. So I think that's useful, and you could still do that with brew in a bag. And then, other than that, I think it's fine. I don't really have a problem against it.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Fair. On the record, we've solved it.
There you are.
Yeah. No more hate.
What's up next?
Apparently, this is another one from Tony. He says, gents, I see. It's interesting. The last one was addressed to you specifically, but now this is just, a general email. I've read in forums that some homebrewers grow up more yeast than necessary in order to get multiple pitches from a single liquid yeast packet. I know that the amount of yeast pitched relative to the size of the starter has an effect on growth rate and yeast health. What I'm wondering is if this is a viable alternative to top and bottom cropping.
Well, you certainly could do this, and you just need to make sure you get enough yeast out of the starter. And you could do, multiple steps. You could do the first step, and then you could split that starter off and then do 2 new starters. Mm-hmm. And then, one for one beer. And so I've done this where you just save a little bit of yeast, and then, go ahead with your brew day. And then that little bit of yeast you use to make your next starter for your next batch. Now, it's different than top and bottom cropping. Top and bottom cropping, you're going to get from a batch of beer, you're going to get a lot more yeast than you will out of a starter. Think of it, you're doing 5 gallons or 20 liters, 18 liters of wort, and you're growing yeast with that. You're going to get quite a bit more yeast out of it. So that's one of the differences. The other thing is when you brew your beers, the yeast is kind of adjusting to the environment that you're providing in your brewery. And so after a few generations, it kind of falls in a groove. I find that the 3rd or 4th generation is really nice for making beers. So I think that's different. And then, top cropping, especially with certain yeast, you get some of the healthiest yeast that way. So that's kind of different. The issue with, top and bottom cropping is it clean? Is it healthy? Have you done everything right? If you're not comfortable with how clean your process is in brewing and all that, you need to, skip the top and bottom cropping and go more with, like you're suggesting, the splitting a starter and doing that.
Yeah.
Did you make starters when you brew? Or?
Yeah, I did. I don't anymore. I haven't for a long time because I've had some contamination issues in the past. And the way I brew, which I don't do a whole lot of anymore, just because I'm lazy, I guess, taking a break. I mean, I like brewing. I hate kegging. If I didn't have to package that shit, I would brew all the time. Mm-hmm. But I hate everything post fermentation. I can't stand it.
Right.
The starters, I just buy two pitches of yeast.
Mm-hmm.
And I just do that, and it works out fine. It's not maybe the greatest start to a fermentation ever, but I find the beers come out fine. I don't really have many issues with it. And for me, that's much easier than, heating the thing up on the stove and then cooling it down and, swirling and doing all that. I don't know. I just, it also allows me to brew like the day of, or maybe the day before. I go, I kind of want to brew tomorrow. And I can just pop out to more beer and grab 2 packets and, I'm good to go. Cause I do 5 gallons at a time. So I think 2 packets. What do you think? 2 packets is like 2 tubes of White Labs?
Yeah, I think that's fine. And actually, White Labs now has a new pack out. It's like a bag with a screw cap on it. And
really?
It's several fold more yeast than was in the previous packs.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So,
Wow.
it's for most average gravity beers, it's just a toss it in, you're good to go. And
Cool.
it's plenty of yeast, and you only need one.
That's great.
So,
Let's check that out.
People should check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. All righty. Do you have another question that isn't from Antonio?
I do. Well, this is more, I guess, a comment. I don't know. This is from Ted. He says, I was listening to old Brew Strong episodes. By the way, this is from 2020. So, Ted, you're getting the freshest responses possible.
Right.
I was listening to old Brew Strong episodes and almost drove off the road laughing so hard. I could barely see through my tears when I heard the unicorn and the rainbow blow sailors for loose change. That's a throwback to lunch meat if I've ever heard it.
Yes.
Speaking of blowing sailors, is our good friend John Blickman getting blown for loose change now since he's sponsoring the show? Inquiring brewers want to know. I love the show. Keep it up, Ted. I feel like you have to answer that question because I don't know. Is John Blickman getting blown?
Right.
Basically, yes.
Business owner needs to do what a business owner needs to do to, make ends meet. So, I mean, I guess it's possible. As for unicorn and the rainbow, that's you. That's you, my friend.
They have been missing. Those two have been missing for years now. We don't know where they are. I think they're now truck drivers in the Midwest, and they just, crisscross the country being weird together.
Killing prostitutes?
Possibly. I don't really know. We'll see.
Right.
We'll see when the book comes out.
Wherever the sailors are, that's where they're going.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of long haul to the docks. Yeah.
So I think maybe it's time for another lunch meet.
I've been trying to get a lunch meet going for literally probably a decade, I would guess. Maybe 8 years at the least. And Jay's not having it. I think he's over it.
I think there would be quite a listenership for
I think so, too.
An anniversary lunch meet.
I agree.
Right.
But I feel like that show was a little too inappropriate to resurrect in this day and age.
You would have to put it behind lots of warnings.
Oh, yeah. Paywall after paywall. You have to pay twice. You have to pay to get the code, and then you have to pay even more to be able to input the code to get the show.
And you got to pay a third time to forget what you just heard.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
There you go. All right. Let's take one more short break, and then we'll wrap up with a couple more questions right after this.
Back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time, man. Good to see you, too. I'm glad you're still moving around.
At least months.
Absolutely, yeah. If not a year. I forget now. But I feel like I see you at least every month because I edit your shows.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So I see you. I saw Mitch. Got to hang out with Mitch the other day. And then Allen from Anderson Valley. Got to hang out with him and you. And that was fun.
There you go.
I felt like a third wheel, but that's okay.
Well, it's the same old for you.
Right. Yeah. Basically just sitting there, listening to other people talk and going,
yeah.
Cool, man. When can I leave?
All right.
Time for another question?
Yep.
All right. This is from Michael. It says, greetings from the UK. Been loving the show for many years and have learned a huge amount from my American fellow brewers. Most of us Europeans are all electric for boilers and rims/herm, etc. And have also been tinkering with PID controllers without really knowing what we are doing. Sounds safe. What's PID?
Proportional, the integral derivative.
What is it? Somehow I'm less clear on the acronym than I was before.
When you started.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's essentially like, a set of functions that apply certain mathematics to resolving the issue of controlling temperature accurately. So in a system, right?
Okay.
Let's take, boiling water.
Yeah.
You have different power burners, you have different metals, you have different size kettles, you have different environmental factors. It's cold, it's warm where you're brewing, etc. And what it tries to do is learn, or if you're really an expert, you can a lot of these have learning functions where you just push a button and it tries to figure out, what it should do as far as these settings go. Or if you know somebody that's really well versed in this, they can kind of tune the device to keep the temperature stable. Let's say you don't want boiling, but you want, 176 Fahrenheit. So and you're having this thing turn on and off the burner, it will, if you just have a simple on off, what happens is, and you have a powerful burner, it'll overshoot, right? You got this giant flame going because you want things to heat up quick. But then when it gets to your set temperature of 176, the temperature just keeps going up, right? Until it falls back down. And then, you get a repeat of the problem. Well, what these do is, as it's getting nearer to the set point temperature, it slows down the heat input, right? So if you generally use this with electrical, as Michael was saying.
Yeah.
So it'll throttle the amount of power that's going. They have different ways of doing it, but essentially it's just turning it on and off rapidly. And the distance between those ons and offs change, and it'll start slowing down the amount of heat that's being applied as it gets closer and closer to the set point.
Okay.
So it doesn't overshoot.
Yeah. All right.
So that's kind of the goal of a PID controller.
Sounds cool. Sounds like cool tech. The question, he says, although I have done a reasonable amount of research on PID controllers with all their various complex parameters and optimal settings for homebrew, but I'm still confused. Also, are they different, other than temperature, of course, if I'm controlling my boiler or fridge? Please, could you explain them so that an idiot like myself can understand? Well, I think we already did some of that. The list of other questions related to electric brewing is huge, but I won't bore you with them. Anyway, keep up the great work you do for all of us. And yes, I have emailed Blickman to thank him also for his sponsorship. Good job, Mike. That was from Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Everybody should email Blickman, feedback@blickmanengineering.com. Tell him
that's right.
We appreciate that he's paying for the show. The show's still going because of Blickman.
Absolutely, 100%. As
God knows there's like no listeners, so
yeah. I mean, just me,
right? You're the one. You listen to the shows while you edit them.
So I think you explained what they do, but
right.
Are they different if you're controlling a boiler versus a fridge?
No, it's the same device.
Would you want that kind of compressor clicking on and off thing with a fridge?
Right. You can't really, a lot of fridges will have an anti-short cycle built into them, so they won't run the compressor. If the compressor shuts off when it first gets power, there's a time delay, generally, 20 minutes to allow the compressor, the liquids to settle back so that you don't damage your compressor. So that would be an issue there. But you depending on what kind of, if you have a Peltier chip, that can be done with PID. So yeah, you can't really use it with everything, but you could use it with something like even a burner. If you have a valve throttling the gas, and it could adjust the gas flow to turn the burner down and turn the burner back up. So there's a lot of technology there. Even one of these $13 PIDs you buy on eBay from China, there's a ton of technology in there that is available to control your electric brewing. So yeah, something to kind of get into.
Nice.
William was asking, will you both be attending Homebrew Con this year in San Diego? I met your boys Blickman and Cooper this past year in Pittsburgh.
Oh, nice.
You gonna be at the conference?
No, I will be home. Are you going to be at the conference?
I've booked a hotel.
Okay.
I have talked about being there. I have ignored requests to submit a topic to talk on. I don't know. I might just go down there and hang out in some bar and just tell people, hey, come on by and we'll hang out. It'd be cheaper for me to buy people a pint of beer than it would be to attend the conference, pay for conference attendance.
Sure. Well, but if you give a talk, then you get it for free. So it's fine. You know?
Yeah.
It's got a little work.
Right. I mean, I could.
Yeah.
It's too late. They've already closed off their conference.
I think Brian Cooper submitted a thing. We try to do a Dr. Homebrew show from there every year, but they always reject us. So we'll see about that.
Be honest, they're rejecting you.
Yeah, well, but see, that's why I don't submit it. Cooper does it. So they're really rejecting him.
Right. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I got one more if you want it.
All right, let's do the one more, and then we'll wrap it up. We're out of here.
All right, this is from Rod. This gentleman, during your 9/26/16 podcast, of course, everybody remembers that one.
Yeah.
This is from 2017, so it's definitely fresh in his mind. You were discussing lag time, and Jamil said, quote, if you're getting fermentation in an hour, you're not getting any growth. Is that a bad thing or a good thing? Does it mean you pitched a really good number of healthy yeast that are all grown up and ready to start fermenting right away? Or does it mean something is wrong? What would cause the yeast to start fermenting right away instead of going through a growth/lag phase first?
Well, that is a good question. I think, sometimes I drink and say things. So
yeah.
But yeah, if you're getting fermentation, like almost immediate fermentation, then yeah, the yeast didn't really go through a growth and lag phase. Growth is important to the flavor in beer. So when people were talking, when I was experimenting a lot with homebrew, one of the things was it's like over pitching and under pitching. And so I tried an experiment with, under pitching, pitching was the right amount, and over pitching. It takes a lot of yeast to over pitch. But if you do, you don't really get any growth phase, and the beer tastes a little different than it would otherwise. It's a little more bleh than it should be. Generally you want yeast character. So I generally would say that that's a bad thing. Now, let's say one of the things that I will do is I'll take yeast from a previous batch, and I will wake that up with a starter and get that going, or I'll take a starter and grow that up, and it's fresh off of its growth, and you put it in, and you might get a fairly short lag phase. But generally, you want to pitch the right amount of yeast in the right kind of health conditions so that you get fermentation after an appropriate amount of growth within the beer there. So there you go.
Okay.
What do you think?
Sounds good. I mean, yeah, sure. I think it's fine. I know there was, when I was doing starters, there was sort of a conversation about at what point in the starter's life cycle is appropriate to pitch. Like, you know what I mean? Like after the high Krausen within the flask, or
right
before, because like you said, you don't want to, first of all, you want to get rid of the liquid anyways, I guess. So,
right.
But you don't want that just to go right in and start carrying over.
That's a whole nother issue. So the way that the yeast manufacturers ensure the highest amount of glycogen reserves in the yeast is they take the yeast up to, like high Krausen, and then they crash chill them from there. There's a certain point in the process where they crash chill them, and it causes the yeast to pull in, create the glycogen reserves, and they're at their optimal self-contained nutrient to do better fermentation, to survive longer in storage. So that's why they do that. The thing about, when you're brewing is you don't have a way of really separating that out from the starter wort. I mean, you can, crash chill it at that point and then, decant off the liquid. You really don't want that spent starter liquid. If it's just a little bit compared to the volume of your beer, then it's not a big deal. But if you're making a big starter, you don't want to throw all that spent starter wort into your beer because it often does not taste good at all. So, yeah. So there's the issue there.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that's it. Rod, there you go.
Great show. thank you for joining me, my brother.
Of course, man. Happy to.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
If you listen to the show and you enjoy it, make sure you check out our fine sponsors, blickmanengineering.com. Like I said, send an email, feedback at blickmanengineering.com. It goes straight to John Blickman, and he reads them all. So tell him how much you appreciate that he pays for the show, so you can continue to enjoy it. I know, every company needs to look at where they're spending dollars, and if something is not returning on their investment, they're going to have to say goodbye to it. So make sure you support Blickman Engineering. Go to the Homebrew shop and ask to see the Blickman gear that they have. Check out their website. A lot of little things you can do to help out a business. Same thing for Brew Chatter. Check them out. Good guys there. Make sure you support the Brewing Network and check out JP's show, Dr. Homebrew. I really quite enjoy that one. And then also I got to admit, I haven't listened to any of the Disney ones.
Bummer. It's fine. Don't worry about it. That's all right.
But I have to. You
have to now, man.
We're big Disney family. So
there you go. Yeah. If you want your beer on Dr. Homebrew, if you want to be a guest on the show, if you want to send us homebrew, email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. BRIAN at thebrewingnetwork.com, and he will get you sorted out. We'll get you on the schedule. And if you're local, we can pick up the beers, and don't worry about it. You just ship to one of us, and we'll figure it out from there if you're not local. But yeah, so we're looking for beers, actively looking for beer homebrews, and that's the hard part. Is we're just now it's like, well, nobody's volunteering their beer, especially in the winter right now. So we're sort of looking for beers.
Oh, maybe I should brew a beer for Dr. Homebrew.
Oh, please do. That would be great.
But I'd have to bring a cask down. I'd have to bring my beer engine down.
Well, we do it remotely, so
have to pour the beers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you could do it at my house, and then they can just watch. But yeah,
yeah, all right. Yeah, I could just do it here. I could drink it and tell you how good it is.
That would be a good show.
I think so.
Yeah, based on your comments, we'll fill out a score sheet.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that'd be a great way to do it. Yeah. 50-point beer. Look at this. Wow. Amazing.
Best one we ever had on Dr. Homebrew.
Absolutely.
David's asking, what's that email again? It's Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com.
That's right.
And Mike filled that in for us. There you go. Thanks.
Nice.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Really enjoyed doing the show. And we will see you all on the flip side. You're strong, everybody.